Morning. I'm all right. How are you? What's Yeah, that's right. Rishi, what's your name?
Dean.
Dean. How are you? Hungry? Well, we hope we get you some good breakfast. That's some cutlery. Let me get. We've got a bottle of
the economy out.
Well, that is exactly what I'm trying to do. Exactly what I'm trying to do.
There's the business.
What do you have? Do you work in a business? Do you want some
No,
fruit?
I'm homeless, and I'm actually a homeless person at the minute, but I'm interested in business.
Is that something you'd like to get into?
I wouldn't mind, but I don't know. I'd like to get through Christmas first.
Yeah.
So are you a bit of a businessman yourself? How's your morning going as I'm serving you this food? No, I am homeless. So this out of touch moment, unsurprisingly, drew the ire of many. Let's look at some of these tweets. So this says, Rishi Sunak is so out of touch, working for the PR points in a homeless shelter. His original question to a homeless person is, do you have a business? Which he switches at the last minute to, do you work in a business? It goes to show just the kind of company he's keeping and how out of touch he is from everyday people's lives. And it's hilarious that this happens when he's clearly doing a PR stunt, trying to be in the community and be giving back to the community, when most politicians could best give back to the communities they serve by passing policies to actually provide things like public goods for the people they're supposed to serve, like do their actual job, but instead they're doing photo ops. We had Rachel Clark also tweet, why do politicians believe photos like this capture anything other than their cynicism? Here's Rishi Sunak cosplaying in cashmere as a homeless shelter staff member yesterday. Then we had Joanne Harris say, billionaire by marriage. Just a great start to a tweet. Rishi Sunak chirpily telling a homeless Londoner about all the job opportunities in finance that exist outside the city, while the homeless guy's breakfast slowly goes cold and he wonders how he'll get through Christmas. FFS, vote these people out. So this is just another example of growing dysfunction in the United Kingdom. Keep in mind, he took office after Liz Truss, who only served for about 6 weeks. I don't know if served is the right word, only held that position for about 6 weeks. Sunak's approval rating was already taking a hit prior to this, faux pas at the homeless shelter. Labor leads by 14 points. Let's look at this headline as Rishi Sunak's approval rating dips. I would love to see a Labour prime minister in office in the United Kingdom. Let's get to the details from London Loves Business. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's next net approval rating has dipped from +2% to -4%. 30% approve of the job he is doing, while 34% disapprove. I mean, Liz Truss was an easy act to follow. Somehow he is still failing. Rayyvana, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I just can't. I was laughing hysterically. I know they couldn't see me, but just at him asking that question. But what really got me was when he asked as a follow-up, would you like to get into business? Like, sir, this man wants to get into housing. I don't think his primary concern is getting into the stock market or opening a business. He wants shelter. His basic needs need to be met. And you're exactly right, highlighting how disconnected he is from the actual experience of people, living in the country that he is supposed to, be in charge of, and just the absolute complete lack of awareness he had in that moment. It's just emblematic of who he is as a politician. But ultimately, what's so sad about it is that Rishi Sunak left there and went to, his very nice house and had a wonderful, nice Christmas with his family. Whereas the people who he was, forcing to listen to his musings about the business world, after this, where do they go? And what is he actually doing aside from giving them one meal to ensure that they can find housing, they have housing, their needs are met, and that they can have, the ability to just get through Christmas, which is what the man said. I mean, it's depressing. And we see the sort of disconnect between politicians and the people they're supposed to be representing all the time. It's capitalism.
Yeah, I mean, the only appropriate reason he would have for saying something like this is if he were to follow it up with, Well, I have a loan, some capital to give you for you to start a business out of the goodness of my heart from, my billionaire spouse's pockets. Whatever the case may be for why he said this, it shows that there's no understanding that the reason people are poor is because the choice they have is to sell their labor to someone else who does have the capital to start a business in order to survive. This disconnect is there because there are some people who have always lived within the capitalist class, people who have money that they can make more money off of, whether it be through the stock market, through starting their own businesses. And then there's an underclass of people that are literally living in a recession in the United Kingdom. Look at this headline. The United Kingdom recession could turn into a lost decade. So given the trouble that the UK is in right now, and what their prime minister is doing is photo ops to make it seem like he's helping out by serving food, no doubt that he didn't donate or make himself. Another headline, life or death, as Britons buckle under the cost of living crisis, many resort to warm banks for heat this winter. And this, overall, crisis estimated that around 227,000 people were experiencing the worst forms of homelessness, rough sleeping in vans and sheds, and stuck in B&Bs across England, Scotland, and Wales in 2021. So people are struggling to pay their energy bills when they do have homes in the United Kingdom to stay warm this winter. But there are many people who are houseless across the United Kingdom. And this guy has the audacity to ask someone who is in a shelter if he would like to get into business, because that's the kind of small talk he's used to. That's what he talks to his friends about their business ventures. His everyday conversation isn't, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling this morning? Like, how are you feeling about the holiday? Like, can I get you anything else from this spread of food? There's no sense of treating someone else like a human being. It's all about business transactions. And that's reality for most of the ruling class, the people who run governments all around the modern world and the West. It's really sad. But this is who's leading the United Kingdom right now. Not a big step up from Liz Truss. Rayyvana?
Yeah, I also just want to point out that at the beginning of that interaction, he said, I'm trying to fix the economy, because that was what the man was like. What are you going to help the economy? So it makes sense that someone like Sunak, his mind would go to business. Oh, that's asking about the business sector. Whereas for the average person living in the UK, or honestly anywhere, the average working class individual or poor individual, that's not what the economy is. It's not about businesses being successful. It's about, can I afford to feed myself? Can I afford shelter? Can I afford the necessities for me and my family? Whereas, that's something Sunak's never experienced in his life. So he wouldn't immediately connect the two, but it's his job to know how the economy is impacting individuals that he's meant to be representing. And also just quickly want to touch on the article that said, that it's life or death. And I know people might think that was a little bit dramatic, but it is quite literally life or death for people in the UK with the massive increase in the costs of electricity. People are freezing. People who are housed are freezing to death in their houses, particularly elderly people. And this has been going on for a long time, far too long for the UK to have not done anything effective to intervene. And it is just sad.
I think the crazy thing about democracies across the world right now is that so often the person who's the head of state, who supposedly is supposed to represent people, has no idea what everyday life is like for these people. But oftentimes they have access to the kind of wealth and capital within their own personal circles that could address many of the national problems they face. I mean, this person's spouse is a billionaire, comes from a billionaire family. The amount of money that is and the kinds of problems that could solve, I mean, just a simple redistribution of wealth could address many of the economic problems within the United Kingdom. And it's just disgusting that this is supposed to be someone who's a head of state, who's supposed to fix the problems and represent people when they have access to the capital that could fix many of the problems they've been elected to address. It doesn't make any sense. If they actually cared about those problems, they would resolve them in their personal lives. They're running for public office to have power and do the bidding of corporations like they always have.